cannot tell you how long I've waited on this moment.
Joe Biden, great pick. I'm
so excited.
I am so excited.
So what does Joe Biden selecting a Black woman as vice president mean to me?
That we are in historic times.
I feel seen. I feel heard.
History is getting made today.
Should I say herstory?
So here's to Biden-Harris 2020.
I am hyped.
When I look at Kamala, I see nothing but opportunity.
We can't do anything but celebrate. Trust, my mood all year is gonna be turn up.
I'm here for Joe and Kamala.
Because she can, we can!
Thank you for joining this Biden-Harris campaign Turn Up and Turn Out the Vote bus tour launch with Senator Kamala Harris. And now please welcome North Carolina A&T alumna, Maija Gary.
Well, good evening. My name is Maija Gary, and I am so excited to join the Turn Up and Turn Out the Vote virtual bus tour kickoff. As a Black woman and alumna and a former campus queen of North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, which is a historically Black university, I understand firsthand the importance of voting to ensure that my voice is heard. So grab your friends, grab your family, and let's make history. Now, it is my honor and privilege to introduce our next speaker and hopefully our next vice president, Senator Kamala Harris. Senator Harris grew up believing in the promise of America and fights every day to ensure that promise is fulfilled for all Americans. She started fighting for working families in the Alameda County District Attorney's Office. And from there, she became the first Black woman elected as San Francisco's district attorney. In 2010, she made history again by becoming the first Black woman to be elected Attorney General of California, overseeing the country's second largest Justice Department, where she continued to fight for families, the LGBT community, student borrowers like me, and our environment. Since joining the Senate in 2016, Senator Harris has continued her fight for all Americans as a member of three powerful committees: Intelligence, Judiciary, and Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs. Senator Harris graduated from Howard University, which is also a historically Black university, where she was a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and earned her law degree from UC Hastings College of Law. She continues to fight for all of us, break glass ceilings, and make history as the first Black woman to be on a presidential ticket. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Kamala Harris.
Oh, thank you, Maija, for everything that you are and for that incredible introduction. It's so good to be back in North Carolina. And I have spent some wonderful time there. I can't wait to get back in person, but it is wonderful to be there virtually. And I want to just thank all of the friends who are part of this and the incredible, not only incredible leaders in North Carolina, but national leaders in Congresswoman Alma Adams and G.K. Butterfield, the congressman from North Carolina. Thank you both for your friendship and for your leadership and for everything you do. So, okay, North Carolina, you are my first stop on our virtual bus tour. And I am so glad that you have tuned in for this because we need you, and we need you to stay engaged through Election Day in November. And the great news is that more than 880,000 North Carolinians have already requested mail-in ballots, and more than 50,000 have already voted. Can you imagine? That is so incredible because we want to make sure everyone votes early. So let me start by saying, please keep up that energy. Keep up that energy in that fight, because the momentum building and the voting early is going to make all the difference in terms of the outcome of this election. And you can visit iwillvote.com to make a voting plan. And that's what we want everyone to do. Make a voting plan. Look on the calendar and know, and just decide this is the day I'm going to vote, and make a whole plan around that day. And also not only make a voting plan, but make sure you're registered and ready to vote. Listen, there is so much at stake in this election. We are, and everybody knows it, we are in the middle of battling a deadly pandemic. We're in the midst of an economic crisis people are comparing to the Great Depression. And we are in the midst of a long overdue and a continual fight for a reckoning on race and justice in America. And in the midst of all that, we're also in the midst of a climate change that is supercharging storms in our Gulf Coast states. It's keeping the West, including my home state of California, engulfed in smoke and wildfire. So there's a lot going on right now, including the fact that nearly 30 million Americans are collecting unemployment. And at least 11 million jobs have been permanently lost. So all of that is happening, and ordinary working people, everyday folks, are looking at the job market and wondering, who is fighting for me? Who's fighting for me? Well, that is exactly what Joe and I are prepared to answer, which is we will fight for you. When President Trump refuses to do his job, spending his time stoking fear and hate and lying to us about the threat of COVID, back when he could have saved countless lives. While Donald Trump has failed us, we can't let his incompetence cloud our concept of government or what government can do and what we can accomplish together. In a Joe Biden, Kamala Harris administration, we will confront COVID-19 to make sure that the American people are safe. And that means a number of things. It means free access to COVID testing and treatment, and God willing, as soon as we get a safe vaccine, free access to a safe vaccine. It means in a Biden-Harris administration, jobs, additional new jobs for 100,000 people through a new public health jobs corps. That's what we're calling it. But to help people in terms of training folks in contact tracing and what we need to do to stop the outbreaks. In a Biden-Harris administration, it means setting a national mask standard. Because here's the thing, if we are going to live the goal and the spirit of love thy neighbor, well, we need to wear masks. And nobody likes to wear a mask, but we need to wear a mask. And so Joe and I will lead by example because we know this is what saves lives. Joe and I are committed to reviving our economy, and that means access to $150 billion in low-interest loans and capital, including $100 billion of that going directly to Black and brown communities. It means helping Black people build wealth with a $15,000 down payment tax credit for first-time home buyers, because we know that Black families own 1/10 of the wealth of white families, and one of the greatest sources of wealth for any American family is home ownership. And it also represents intergenerational wealth, meaning that's the asset that gets passed down through the generations. It means also, in terms of our priorities, ensuring that we don't go bankrupt while trying to pay for the health care we need. So Joe and I will build on the work that he and President Barack Obama did in creating the Affordable Care Act, which was also known as Obamacare. And we will work not only to build upon it, but expand it and create a public option. And now you need to know something about that, which is right now, in the midst of a public health pandemic, where over 6 million people have contracted this virus. Almost 220,000 people, or 200,000 people, have died from it, right? Probably by this weekend, it'll be 200,000 people will have died from it. While all this is going on, do you know Donald Trump is in court right now trying to end the Affordable Care Act, trying to get rid of it? And here's what you should know. That means getting rid of what President Obama, together with Vice President Biden, did, which is to make sure that people up to the age of 26 can be on their parents' coverage. It means making what they did was they made sure that people with pre-existing conditions like diabetes, like high blood pressure, wouldn't be banned from health care coverage. Those were the things that they accomplished that Donald Trump is trying to get rid of in the midst of a public health crisis. And why am I bringing that up? Because think about it. First of all, obviously people need health care when there's a public health epidemic. But also, let's think about pre-existing conditions, something that President Obama, together with Vice President Biden, sought to deal with. 6 million people plus contracted the virus. We still don't know the long-term effects of it, which means if Donald Trump gets rid of the Affordable Care Act, those 6 million people who may have pre-existing conditions may be banned from coverage because of what Donald Trump is trying to do. So let's be clear that when we fight for these issues, it is going to be about fighting for the more than 130 million people with pre-existing conditions. It is going to be about fighting to make sure that the over 500,000 people in North Carolina that have coverage, fighting so that they don't lose their coverage, including in North Carolina, the 4 million people who are now living with pre-existing conditions. It means Joe and me fighting for you and fighting for folks with pre-existing conditions. And part of that fight means helping Donald Trump leave the White House through an election process. Our work also means ensuring that we reform our criminal justice system. Listen, we have to create a National Police Oversight Commission, and Joe and I will do that so that we demand police departments be reviewed and be monitored for how they are engaged in practices, how they are hiring, how they are training, whether they are engaged in de-escalation practices. Joe and I will outlaw chokeholds and carotid holds. Well, listen, George Floyd would be alive today if those were banned. It means creating a national standard for use of force. Because Joe and I know that, look, right now in many jurisdictions, if a police officer uses excessive force, the question that people ask was that use of force reasonable? But you and I know you can reason away just about anything. The question, the fair question, the just question is to ask, was that use of force necessary? So Joe and I will create a national standard for use of force. We'll also fight to eliminate the death penalty and mandatory minimums. And we will make sure that we end cash bail, which, by the way, that's about economic justice as well as criminal justice, because what ends up happening, people who have the money can get out, where people who don't have the money stay in jail. That's about economic justice as much as criminal justice. We will also end private prisons. Why? Private prisons, think about the business model in that. That's that some human beings are making money off of the incarceration of other human beings. That needs to end. Joe and I are also going to decriminalize the use of marijuana and automatically expunge all marijuana convictions, and also end incarceration for drug use alone. And of course, we have to invest in our future because we want to make sure that among the students who are participating this evening, we want to make sure, and the young people who are coming out of high school, coming out of college, or just entering the workforce, we want to make sure we're entering a strong and dynamic workforce, free of debt for those who have attended college. And we want to make sure that you are prepared because we have adequately prepared you to compete in a global market. So to that end, Joe and I will invest over $70 billion in HBCUs and minority-serving institutions. And we will fight to forgive student loan debt for people who are making less than $125,000 when you come out of school. And also we will cancel $10,000 of student loan debt for all students, regardless of what you make. So we've got some work to do. We also, you should know, have a plan that for students who are coming from families that make less than $125,000, if you attend a public school, you will attend tuition free. If you attend an HBCU, whether it's private or public, it will be tuition free. So these are the things we can do together, but we have to win this election. And that means making sure that everyone votes, making sure that in North Carolina, you vote as early as possible at an early voting site, that you vote by mail, and remember to sign your name and have a witness add their name and address and signature, and mail that ballot as soon as you can. So that's the early voting, that's the vote by mail. or vote on November 3rd, which is the final day to vote. I'd prefer you vote early. And here's my last point. There are forces at work in our country, in North Carolina and all over the country, that are dead set on trying to make it hard or confusing for us to vote. And you know, we say every time, and it is so important, that the importance of us voting includes honoring the ancestors, honoring folks like John Lewis who shed their blood for our right to vote. And so that is part of what has to motivate us to vote. But here's another thing. In North Carolina, you know, because a court of appeals said that legislature with surgical precision wrote laws to try and prevent Black folks from voting. We know that there are states all over this country where powerful people are trying to make it difficult or confusing for Black people to vote. And I'd ask us to ask a question. Why are they going through so much trouble, through so much effort to try and suppress our vote? And I think we all know the answer, because they know when we vote, things change. They know when we vote that leaders are held accountable. And so I say to us, don't us let anybody take our power from us, the power of our vote. Don't let anybody take that power from us. So let's make sure and vote and make sure our voices are heard. And I thank everybody for the work you do every day and the pledge that we're all making to do everything we can over these next 46 days to bring this election home. Thank you all.
Thank you. And if you are anything like me, you understand the struggles of being boggled down by student debt. So now is the time to make the change that you want to see. Thank you again so much, Senator Harris, for that warm welcome and your words of wisdom. Now let's meet our distinguished panelists, starting with Congressman G.K. Butterfield, who is a U.S. representative and was elected to the U.S. House in 2004 and has been an advocate for civil rights throughout his career. Hello, Congressman Butterfield.
Hello, Maja, and hello, friends who are watching this from all over North Carolina. Welcome.
Awesome. Next, we have Congresswoman Alma Adams, who is also a U.S. representative and has represented North Carolina's 12th Congressional District since 2014. Might I add that she is also an alumna of the North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. Aggie Pride.
Aggie Pride.
Love it. Hello and welcome. And last but not least, L.T. McCrimmon is the North Carolina State Director for Biden for President. Hello, L.T.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So welcome, panelists, and thank you so much for joining. So let's jump right into the fun part. Congresswoman Adams, let's start with you. How are Joe Biden and Kamala Harris helping working Black families?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and I appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. I think our next vice president said it best. First of all, I want to just applaud her and Joe Biden on their work and at least the plan that they put together for African Americans, including advancing the economic mobility, closing the racial gap, the economic gaps, making sure that we have investments in HBCUs. Listen, education is the pathway, and it has been for me as a first generation and so many students who attend our historically Black colleges and universities. And we have over 100, 102 throughout the country. He's also talking about access to high quality education. I was certainly enlightened by the $70 billion that He wants to invest in our HBCUs and decreasing the student debt, but also strengthening America's commitment to justice. As a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, we've been working on the George Floyd Racial Justice Act. Also making the right to vote and the right to equal protection real for African Americans, increasing the minimum wage, making sure that people have decent, affordable housing, addressing the environmental justice. All of these things will certainly help our families, and as African Americans, we are concerned about them. I certainly hope that people take this election seriously. Making sure that not only do you vote, but that making sure that your vote counts. So you're going to make sure that you complete your forms correctly if you're doing an absentee ballot. But I think all of the things that they have, that Biden, Harris have outlined in their plan I think will be tremendously helpful to African Americans. He stands up for justice, and we know that this current president continues to perpetuate oppression, and so the Biden Harris is the way to go, and we're going to turn it out in North Carolina. I like your theme, turn it up, turn it out, and as I say, we're going to turn the mother out. The students will be a significant part of making sure that we do what's necessary to have some real democracy in this country. We've got 45 days, 43 days, but we're going to work hard to make a difference. So thank you very much for having me here. I'm glad to see my colleague, the Eagle, on the program as well. He's going to take the East, and I'm going to take this side of the state. Make sure we turn out and we turn up.
All right now, Congresswoman, let's turn it out and turn it up. So I want to pass this over to you, Congressman Butterfield. How would you say Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are helping working Black families?
Well, first of all, let me thank you for bringing me on today to be a part of this very, very important program as we are reaching out to thousands of North Carolinians as we prepare for the November 3rd election. And aren't we just so proud of Senator Kamala Harris? Just to sit here and to watch her speak a few moments ago, I just beam with pride. I beam with Eagle pride. I know we talk about Aggie pride all of the time. Well, NCCU is in the house, and we beam with Eagle pride. There's no question about it that Senator Harris is a great asset to Joe Biden. I'm so thankful and so proud that he chose her as his running mate. This is a stark choice between the current president and Joe Biden. North Carolinians every day are looking at Trump's record, and it is absolutely clear. Trump has plunged families in this state. He has plunged businesses in North Carolina into an absolute crisis. The fault for this prolonged pandemic is squarely on President Trump. But you know what? History is going to sort that out. What we must do now is to be safe. We must stay safe, and we must safely vote in this election. This is not only the most important election of our lifetime, but it is the most consequential election of our lifetime. Black voters all across my district, and I represent the eastern part of North Carolina. Congresswoman Adams, my dear friend, represents Charlotte Mecklenburg. But let me tell you, African-American voters all over this state are fired up and ready to go. We are energized. We are enthusiastic with this ticket. In looking at the data, it's clear that North Carolina Democrats have a voter registration advantage, and a record number of Democrats have already asked for absentee ballots. We have a wonderful absentee ballot system in North Carolina. You don't have to provide an excuse for absentee voting. You can apply for an absentee ballot online and submit your request electronically. And a record number of Democrats have requested an absentee ballot. But my friends, we cannot take anything for granted in North Carolina. Every vote, every single vote matters. You look at the polling data when it comes on the evening news, you will see that it is a statistical tie between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. That means that your vote counts. And so early voting in person begins on October 15th and extends until October 31st. Voting by mail is happening right now. So you must request a ballot by October 27th if you want to vote that way. Finally, let me say that there are some very powerful forces at work in this state. Senator Harris alluded to it a few moments ago. There are powerful voices who want to deny the right to vote, to dilute the right to vote, and to take away the effect of the African-American vote in North Carolina, because they know, and we know, that it will be the African-American vote that will make the critical difference in this election. We must have a new president. We must have a Democratic president. We must have a Democratic senator from North Carolina, Democratic Chief Justice of our state Supreme Court, and the list just goes on and on and on. Thank you for joining us today. Let's put our hands to work. Let's get ready to elect Democrats from the White House to the courthouse. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. LT, would you like to chime in on this discussion? How are Joe Biden and Kamala Harris helping working Black families?
So I think Congresswoman Adams alluded to that earlier today. The vice president has laid out a plan where he wants to put families back to work, ensure that folks have $15 minimal paying living wages. He wants to make sure that childcare is affordable for families. Families are now spending half their salaries on making sure their kids have childcare that they can trust to keep their kids during the day. They want to make sure education is affordable for kids who are going to school. As a graduate of Shaw University, as well as North Carolina Central University, we know going to college is not cheap. And so we'll make sure that these families can afford these schools. We're going to afford to make sure our next generation is properly educated. We all know that education is key here in North Carolina. We have several schools and we have several HBCUs, which I am very proud of. But I will also say that, we can't take this election lightly. This is the most important election of our lifetime, and our communities have tremendous power here. And so when we have Joe Biden on the ticket and we have a choice between him and Trump, I think we all know what the right choice is, and that's Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Thanks.
Thank you, LT. Congressman Butterfield, this next question is for you. And I'm going to say this really quietly, but ego pride, because you got to support all the HBCUs. But with North Carolina a swing state, how can marginalized communities overcome the state's history of voter suppression?
Well, our viewers must understand what it means when we say that we are a swing state. That means that North Carolina can go in either direction. It can swing Republican, it can swing Democrat. It depends on who turns out at the ballot box and who they vote for. And so North Carolina has been declared a battleground state. That means that in the race for president, there are 6 states that the experts say will make the difference in this election. There are Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Florida, and yes, North Carolina. And so Barack Obama won North Carolina in 2008. We put together what we call the Obama Coalition. And that coalition continues to exist in North Carolina. It's Black, it's brown, it's progressive whites, it's women, it's LGBTQ. It's an array of groups all across North Carolina who are coming together, who say collectively that we want change. And so, yes, we are a battleground state, but there's been a long history of voter suppression here in North Carolina. Some very powerful forces are in play to diminish our vote. And so that's why we have to have a large turnout. We need a 100% turnout in this election. The world knows that if we turn out in Obama-like numbers, we will win North Carolina. We will be the deciding state to elect a president, a new president and vice president. We will elect one of 3 U.S. senators that are needed now to control the United States Senate. The election here, ladies and gentlemen, my brothers and my sisters, the election here in North Carolina will undoubtedly decide the quality of life and the quality of life that our community will have for generations to come. Thank you for asking that question. We must overcome voter suppression by voting and not letting anyone deny us the right to vote.
Thank you, Congressman. And Congresswoman, I'm going to pass this over to you. How can marginalized communities overcome the state's history of voter suppression, considering North Carolina a swing state?
Well, I think as Congressman Butterfield suggested, first of all, we're going to have to turn out, and we're going to have to turn out really big. We're going to have to make sure that the vote that we cast, that we do it accurately, that we vote. Somebody's going to make a decision for and about us, most times without us. You got one or two things you can do. You can do what Butterfield and I've done, run for office, work from the inside out, or you should be able to control those of us who make those decisions on your behalf. Now, when good people don't go to the polls to vote for good people, bad people get elected, and they do awfully bad things to good people. We see that has happened to us over and over and over again, and particularly over the past 4 years. So I think that really the difference is going to be made by the young people. And I would just say to each and every student, HBCU strong, that we need to, if you are registered at your school address in North Carolina, we are the battleground state. So goes North Carolina, so goes this election for us. So we need for you to vote in North Carolina. You're already registered here, and that's going to matter. So I think that people need to understand that change will only come if we vote. And so we know we need change. I mean, in my district alone here in Charlotte, 80,000 people have requested an absentee ballot. I voted last week. I carried my ballot in. I watched it go into the box. And I think we're going to have to continue to make sure you're going to vote early, you're going to vote absentee. And listen, if you're concerned about the mail, carry it to the Board of Elections or carry it to your polling place during early vote, or make sure you get out there on election day and vote.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Now we will pass the mic to OTHNIEL Harris, a regional voter protection director for North Carolina, to talk about how to register to vote. OTHNIEL, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Maja. Thank you so kindly for the introduction, and good evening to the people of the Tar Heel State. My name is OTHNIEL Harris, and I work for the voter protection team in North Carolina. So there's two ways to register to vote in North Carolina. If you have a North Carolina driver's license, you can register online through the state DMV's website. But if you do not have one, you can also go to the State Board of Elections website, ncsbe.gov, and get a voter registration form, fill it out online, print it, sign it, and you can either hand deliver it to your local county board of elections, or you can mail it in to your local county board of elections. And once you're registered to vote, there are 3 ways to vote, and all of them are safe, they are easy, they are secure. The first way is to vote early in person. The early voting period is from October 15th through October 31st. The second way, you can vote on election day, but we don't want you to wait all the way until election day. We want you to vote early, either in person, or you can request your vote by mail ballot. You can request it online, or you can request it by calling your local county board of elections. Now, once you request and receive your absentee ballot, make sure you grab a friend, you grab your mother, your father, your cousin, a neighbor, and make sure that they witness you voting your ballot. So once you receive it, vote your ballot, have your witness seeing you vote your ballot, get them to sign their part of the return envelope. Make sure they print their name, they sign their name, and they put their address, and make sure you sign your name as well. Seal it back into the return envelope and make sure it's delivered to your local county board of elections. And you can go both in person or you can put it in the mail.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all of our panelists for participating, and to OTHNIEL for the helpful information on how we can vote. Now for our special guest, Anthony Hamilton, born in Charlotte, North Carolina, who is an American singer, songwriter, and record producer, who rose to fame with his platinum-selling second studio album, Coming From Where I'm From. Anthony has also been nominated for 17 Grammy Awards. So we have a superstar. Anthony, the floor is yours.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Yeah, we're here to encourage people to vote and vote wisely. And Kamala Harris, and Joe Biden seems to be the better ticket. There are things that I've heard him speak about, helping working families and families that are, that are making $125,000 or more to pretty much cover those college tuitions and things. But we need a little bit more for the everyday working class family who don't make up to $125. So I think we need to focus more on those families who need a lot more. And I think those are the people that we need to really not forget in this election and vote for things that will help them out as well. But I feel really good about it. I think they have what it takes to change everything around. And we look forward to seeing you guys at the polls. But we don't want to forget those everyday people who don't make enough money to pay their own tuitions. We need stuff for everyday people, low-income families, and people who are struggling day to day. Like, they need help as well. So that's what we want to see change in that as well. So Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, we're depending on you. People go out to the polls, vote, and let's turn this thing around, because the leadership we have right now is not a good look for us. It's not representing America or Americans, and there's no protection for our family and kids and Black men and women and people who are at risk, for police brutality and injustice every day. So I'm here to support the new vote for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. And we look forward to seeing the changes that they can make.
Thank you so much, Anthony, for your words and for being here, for joining us today. We appreciate you. Now we will pass the mic over to Ms. Tate Mitchell, who is a regional organizing director with the First and Fight North Carolina Coordinated Campaign. Ms. Tate?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank y'all so much for being here with us today. So I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to take us back to 2008, okay? Imagine a little Black girl on the brink of her life, starting 6th grade. Most of her class has found out that her parents are voting for and supporting then Senator Barack Obama. She's ostracized. She blames her parents for ruining her life and completely misses the historic moment that we are in. 2012 comes around. This little girl, now a little older, she's taking on her sophomore year of high school. Cheer practice in the afternoon, water polo in the morning, maybe going to our high school Dems meeting to get a t-shirt, maybe some voter information for her brother who's voting for the first time. But when is election day again? November 3rd, November 4th, November 5th, November 20th, I don't know. So let's fast forward to 2016. This girl is now a woman on her college campus in her sophomore year, holding voter registration drives with her sorority sisters, grabbing every student that she can on campus. Have you made your plan to vote? Do I need to get an Uber? Do we need to take you to the polling location? Doesn't pick up a phone to make a call, doesn't knock a single door, doesn't talk to any organizer in the area. Stays up all night, sees those results, cries the full day, maybe the week, maybe the month. Okay, maybe I'm still crying every day about where we're at. But guess what? 2020 came around. I had the opportunity to move across the country to Iowa City, Iowa, to knock on doors in the snow for Senator Harris and Vice President Biden. I got to go to Aiken, South Carolina, and knock and talk to all those amazing voters. So here's what I'm asking y'all to do. We have some amazing candidates, not only leading our ticket with Vice President Biden and Senator Harris, but we have to re-elect Governor Cooper so he can continue to work for the people of North Carolina. We have to send Cal Cunningham, a United States veteran, to Senate to continue to fight for the people of North Carolina. And we have to work hard for these Democrats down the ballot to make sure that they can continue doing the work that they want to do every single day to better the lives of North Carolinians. So this isn't just going to happen. We have to get to work. I ask that y'all pick up the phone, make some calls, reach some voters. When you get that late night call from an organizer, take it and listen to what they have to say. Download the Vote Joe app and do some relational organizing with us. And most importantly, go to iwillvote.com/NC and make your plan to vote. No one wants to wake up the next day after the election and think, what more could I have done? So let's get it done together. Thank you guys so much.